While on a road trip with the family, my husband pulled over and insisted that I signed over my parents' $100 million bequest. My cruel mother-in-law shoved me off a cliff into the ocean when I refused to sign anything, and she said, "Goodbye, your chapter is over." But I managed to stay alive and come back to exact revenge in a manner they didn't expect. My entire life has felt like a magical story to me. Adam Williams and I met in college, and I knew he was the one the moment we laid eyes on one another. His kind, sparkling eyes and comforting smile could put anyone at ease. We had countless hours of shared laughter, study, and future aspirations. We were head over heels in love in no time. We tied the knot in a private ceremony with just our immediate family and friends present after we graduated. I felt like we had it made. A wonderful life, a lovely house, and most importantly, each other. Shortly thereafter, we relocated to Austin, Texas, where Adam began working for a private corporation. He was a real professional who was also ambitious and motivated. I was happy just being a wife and mother. And although I did work for a period, I ultimately chose to remain at home. I worked hard to ensure that Adam would feel at home after a long day at the office. Our love, our plans, and our routines were all intact. It fulfilled all of my desires. Then, though, a shift began, and I could sense it everywhere. Despite my lack of clarity, I can say that it began with my mother-in-law, Catherine. Catherine was an enduring figure in our lives. As far as I could tell at first, she liked me just fine. Something seemed to change, though, once we tied the knot. She became emotionally distant and even unpleasant at times. My goal was to exhibit tolerance, kindness, and consideration. Despite my best efforts, I was never able to live up to her expectations of an ideal daughter-in-law. She was always finding fault with my taste in decor, food, and even clothing. She would remark things like, "You should dress more like this," or remarks about how this house is too modern to be a home. I kept my cool since I knew things would improve in due course, even though it felt like everything I did was irritating her. I had no idea that this was just the tip of the iceberg when it came to the underlying issue. A few years down the road, my entire world came crashing down when an awful tragedy killed both of my parents. That hit me so hard that I'm still itching to get back on my feet. But then something unexpected happened. I inherited all of their possessions as the dust cleared and I attempted to overcome my sadness. There was more at stake than simply cold, hard cash. It was the ancestral home, a sprawling estate that had lain in my family for centuries. To me, the mansion was paramount. As a child, I shared cherished moments there with my parents, and now it stands as a monument to their love and hard work. It seemed as though they were still there in every room of the home the moment I stepped foot inside following the burial. The thought that I would never be able to sell it crossed my mind. It was too significant for me. The only thing I had to cling to when my parents were gone was my legacy, which served as a link to them. The situation, however, shifted dramatically at that point. Catherine started putting pressure on me to sell the estate. She advised that I launch Adam's business with the funds. "You can't possibly fit everyone in there," she'd remark. "You can do without it. Imagine the possibilities if you had that much money. Get rid of the house, sell it, and spend the money for something better." That was the constant implication. Nearly every time she paid a visit, she would mention it. She seemed more concerned with exerting control than offering assistance. No, I couldn't sell the mansion, I assured her time and time again. I spoke up about how this house represents my parents' legacy. I can't simply part with it. Nonetheless, neither Adam nor Catherine were going to give up. Adam began to alter his previously amiable and understanding behavior. With each passing day, he took his mother's side, and the pressure to sell intensified. "Olivia, it's just a house," he would assure me times. With that sum, we could accomplish a great deal. With this, I could launch my business and provide a comfortable life for my family. Still, I said no. Why they failed to grasp the significance of this mansion to me baffled me. Preserving my parents' memories was more important than the money. It appeared then that my denial had set in action something I hadn't anticipated. A vacation to California was the turning point for the family. I thought Adam and I were commemorating a tranquil retreat, a time away from it all. We got in a leased car and drove along the stunning shoreline with the water seemingly going on forever in front of us. What a lovely time to relax. It was picture perfect. A shift occurred, though. Adam abruptly halted the vehicle as we were traversing an especially remote section of the coastline. His initial silence was deafening. I was taken aback, but I thought he was just taking in the scenery. However, his expression became grave and almost icy as he faced me. Saying Olivia, in a hushed voice, he spoke. "Please sign these documents immediately." I was perplexed and stared at him. "Which documents?" "These are the deeds to the mansion. Once you sign them, we may proceed with the business strategy I've been discussing with you." Oh no, my heart literally dropped. "Adam, please. The house isn't selling, as I mentioned before. It does mean a lot to me, and you know it." His face became more inflexible, and the annoyance was palpable in his eyes. "Olivia, you have no idea. This is for the sake of our loved ones and our future. There will be repercussions if you refuse to sign." Catherine, who had been quiet until that point, broke her silence and spoke up from the back seat before I had a chance to digest what he said. "Olivia, please sign it. Keep this as simple as possible. All parties involved will benefit from this." I was ensnared. I attempted to communicate with them, to persuade them, but they remained resolute. Adam's tone became icy. "You will come to regret your decision if you do not sign it immediately." Even though the words hurt, I was unprepared for what followed. When I declined once more, the unimaginable occurred. Without provocation, Adam drew me out of the vehicle by grabbing my arm as his expression turned gloomy. Even Catherine was all command and control like a bolt from the blue. They shoved me in the direction of the edge of the cliff. Something was going on, and I had no idea what it was. As I staggered backward, terror seized me. "Olivia, please sign it. I want it now," Adam said, "or else this part of your life is coming to a close." At that very second, it hit me. They weren't merely discussing the house. They were discussing my entire existence. In the midst of my terror, desperation, and beating heart, I did what was necessary to ensure my survival. The documents were signed by me. But even as I did, I knew it wouldn't be the end of the story. What came next was the last thing I could ever have expected. I don't know how long I stood there, trembling after I signed the papers. My heart was racing, my hands shaking as I held the pen. Adam and Catherine didn't seem to care. They just stared at me, their eyes hard and cold. They believed they had won. They thought they had control of everything. Adam, still silent, shoved me away from the car, his face twisted in disgust. "Now we can finally move on," he muttered under his breath. I barely heard him. I was too focused on the fact that I had just signed away everything that mattered to me, everything my parents had worked for, everything they had left behind for me. And they didn't even flinch. They shoved me further towards the cliffside, and I could feel my legs weakening. My mind scrambled for any possible way to escape, but there was nowhere to run. They had planned this. They had planned for me to give in, and I had done just that. Out of fear. Out of desperation. Just to survive. I signed my inheritance away, and now there was nothing left to do but hope that somehow I'd make it through this. "Get out of the car," Adam ordered, his voice flat. Emotionally, it felt like a nightmare. I didn't want to believe what was happening, but as they pulled me from the car and forced me closer to the edge of the cliff, the reality set in. My breath caught in my throat as I looked down at the jagged rocks far below. The endless blue of the sea crashing against them. I could barely comprehend what they were about to do. "Say goodbye, Olivia," Catherine said coldly. Her voice barely more than a whisper, but it cut through the air like a knife. And then in a split second, they both pushed me. I remember the sharp gasp that escaped my lips as I stumbled and fell. I could hear their voices fading, their laughter echoing in my ears. This chapter is over, they said, as if my life meant nothing. The fall felt like an eternity, but it all happened so fast. One moment I was on solid ground. The next, I was plunging into the air, screaming as the world spun around me. The wind roared in my ears, and the ground below seemed to rise up to meet me with terrifying speed. But then, something miraculous happened. Instead of crashing into the rocks below, I felt a sharp tug. Suddenly, I was hitting the cold water. The shock of the cold water sent a jolt through my body. For a moment,